morning. Good morning, my friends from yesterday party. Thank you for making it here today. You kept your promises. Thank you. Welcome at today Women in Tech panel. We'll be speaking about diversity. And there is a lot being told about diversity, why it's important. Diversity, inclusion, equal opportunities. But what does it really mean in practical terms for IT companies and service providers in particular? Do we really need diversity? Do we need to hire diverse talent? And taking into account its limitations, where to find it? Can we maybe attract diverse talent from other verticals? And if yes, what skills can be transferred from other verticals to ours? These are some of the questions which we'll be discussing at today's panel. And we're here to tell you, to share with you what works for us, but also to learn from you what works well for you. At Acronis, we take diversity very important. We relaunched our diversity program this year, and it has three main elements. The first one, my favorite actually, is mentoring program. It was launched in the beginning of the year, where we selected top 50 female talents and paired them with Acronis executives and board members, including our CEO, Patrick, including our chairman of the board, Paul Moritz, and many others. And this is a unique opportunity for our top female talents to get coaching sessions with executives where they can accelerate their career and look for new career opportunities. The second element of cyber diversity program at Acronis is regional meetups. This is a very new element, which was just introduced a month ago, based on the demand from our female talents. As you know, Acronis is a global company, and we have locations in 40 places around the world, so pretty distributed. And females were asking for opportunities where they can meet formally and informally to get some support, to get opportunities for formal and informal discussions, as well as opportunities for some trainings and career development. So we introduced these regional chapters. During October, we had 5 sessions or 5 meetups in our offices around the globe. Planning to continue now in November, 7 more meetings are planned in 7 other locations. And if it goes well, we'll continue further. The third element of our cyber diversity program is participation in the events, like the one today, thank you, as well as internal and external communications. So all this together, mentoring, regional chapters, events, and communications, these are the elements of Acronis program today, and we are looking and learning how we can expand in future. The purpose of today's session is to discuss these questions and see what we can learn together. With this, please allow me to welcome the moderator of today's session. She is well familiar to you already, a former car racing driver, the only female in Singapore who has this title. She is also multiple champion in motorbikes, as well as a famous presenter in esports, motorsports, and technology events. Claire, welcome.
Thank you, Aliona. Okay, well, we're going to kick off, like you said, this panel, and it's really about cyber women. What's next? And this was formerly known as the Women in Tech session. Now, this discussion has really grown in leaps and bounds. And I think what's really important is that we grow this conversation really not in depth, but of breadth of talent, especially in terms of hiring today. Now, with me are 4 wonderful women who are ahead of the curve. Now, first up, we have Tery Howard. She is the head of technology, Inter Miami FC. She's a founder of Peer Vision Consulting, whose focus is on assisting on clubs and venues with strategic planning and resource structuring, delivering transformative and sustainable technology that is competitive and operationally effective. Now, she's worked with several venues and clubs, most notably NASCAR, Oklahoma Thunder, Tampa Bay Lightning, and Inter Miami Club Football as head of technology, focusing on the stadium, construction, and build products. Now, next up is Ty Hayes, founder and CEO of N-Ovate Business Solutions, technologist, solutions architect, and business strategist. She leads with over 20 years of experience in delivering efficiency, reliability, and innovation in the information technology industry. Hayes' established track record of technology leadership and digital transformation has been recognized by local and national organizations. She was a 2014 recipient of a prestigious CIO 100 award, as well as a recipient of the STEM Women of Color for IT Leadership Awards and the Modern Day Technology Leader Black Engineer Award. Next up, Ashley Taylor. She's the head of global talent acquisition in Acronis, and as the head of that role, she brings 15 years in the talent space and oversees the firm's talent acquisition strategy and operations across 30-plus countries to drive efficiency as well as scale of growth. Now, she's responsible for refining employer branding and key diversity, equity, as well as inclusion efforts focused on supporting as well as advancing women in technology, a topic which, of course, she's extremely passionate about. And lastly, Amy Babinchak. She is the president of the board, National Society of IT Service Providers, NSITSP, and she's operated best-in-class MSP for over 20 years, and 2 other related IT businesses providing support to other IT professionals in tech, mergers, as well as acquisitions. Now, she is a highly respected technology, business, and M&A expert, influencer, thought leader, speaker, author, as well as teacher. She runs peer groups and consults IT business owners through growth, as well as service issues, and she is known for a passion for the industry and independent thought. Please put your hands together for these lovely ladies. Welcome. Welcome, ladies.
Oh, sorry.
Ashley. Okay, well, first up, I think we do actually have a poll that's going to go up on the screen there, and I think one of the important questions that they wanted to ask really was, what percentage of women are in cybersecurity? I think it's an important question up here, and I think what we want you to do is to actually use the QR code to join the Slido and actually try and join into this polling session so we can find out what kind of number that people think it is. Is it 25%, 30%, 50%?
I'm surprised,
Oh,
Annie.
looks like 100% have actually put out, okay, 25%. Oh, I think there's a couple of answers that have changed there. What is the current percentage of women in the cybersecurity industry? And of course, all you ladies, you know this number? Yes, you have a good idea. Okay, well, it looks like 25%. Well, I tell you what, I will give you the answer. The answer, yes, it is 25% of the current percentage of women in the cybersecurity industry. Now, there are a lot more statistics that we can bring to this panel, but first up, I think, let's start with the questions. Now, the first question I'd like to ask really is the importance of a flexible workplace when building a successful leader. Now, I think I'm going to reach out to Tery for that first, on that question. Tery, the importance of a flexible workplace when building a successful leader. What are your thoughts on that?
Great question, and thank you for having me here today and share with this spectacular panel. A flexible workplace, throughout the years I've been in sports for almost 30 plus years, and for women, and I'm just going to speak personally, there's a lot of balance that we have to work through. In my career, I've always focused on a couple of pillars, one of which is commitment, integrity, and balance. And as women, we are mothers, we're wives, we have professional careers, and balancing that flexibility to be able to accommodate those demands, not only in the professional workspace, because there's been a lot of times where you've been, from in sports, you have no hours to work with, right? You have to be available at all times, and having that relationship and that collaboration from your staff, your leadership team, your executive team to be able to meet the demands of the business, deliver, with a level of expectations that are of the quality level that they are expecting, but at the same time, being able to satisfy the commitments that you have from a personal standpoint. And then on top of that, professional growth. You never stop learning and never stop networking to be able to have that mentorship to enable you to continue growing in such a dynamic industry that we are all participating in.
Now, I completely understand myself working in such a diverse range of things, being an athlete still, of course, a working mother flying around the world to do events and hang out with you awesome people. And also, of course, working in the other areas of business that I have myself. I think to be able to also breed the understanding, not just with upper management, to sort out, I guess, to help with these flexible spaces, but really the overall understanding for people who are working together as well. I mean, how important, and how can we do that, really?
I think you have to have a great relationship and understand that you have to grow together. So your success is dependent on your staff, right? Because that is the key. My keys to success was my staff, the relationships that I had with my peers, my executive team, and even my owner, right, at the Miami Dolphins. I had a wonderful relationship with Mr. Ross. So, and those were the mentors, but, you have to be understanding of your staff understands of you, and you grow, because in sports, there's no time. You work, at all hours. And again, it goes back to the commitment, the hard work, the integrity, and the balance, and I have to be understanding of others, and others understanding of me, and it just works out really well.
Now, just a reminder that any of you ladies can actually pipe in at any time if you like to, if it connects to you, the question. So I don't know, it's open for you guys as well. Okay, well, moving on. Well, the next question, how do you support, inspire, and motivate your peers? Now, this goes out to Ty Hayes. Support, inspire, and motivate your peers, specifically women in the workplace.
So I think to kind of balance on the conversation we were in terms of that flexibility, I think leading by example. So I think that for me, building that balance into what I do and showing young women that you can it is hard, right? But you can do it. It's about really creating structures that are meant for you to be successful. It's about being very authentic about what you need and having that real conversation. So it's, I have an exception rule, right? I'm here and I'm present. But if I need to be there, I need there to be a respect for me to be there, to be a mom and do all those things. And so I think creating a pipeline as well, I think we have to be intentional about creating supports for young women that we see reaching out, because it's hard to ask for help a lot of times. And so I think it's about being present, knowing that there's a desire to grow, and then showing that it can be done. And we talked about it, I think, before here, that most of our growth have come through men that have been supportive of us and recognizing a talent that we have, because women sometimes don't speak up for themselves. So I think it's about making sure that whatever we got to get to where we are today, we need to be intentional about giving it back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd love to chime in on that, because we were talking about that before we came here, and there's a lot of men in the audience, and one thing that I want to say is women in tech is not just for women. You all play a really important role, and we were talking about how a lot of our mentors and people who helped us get to where we are today were men, whether they were direct managers or indirect, or just somebody that we were able to bounce ideas off of or help and guide us. So it's really important that you're an active participant, right? It's for everybody, and it's huge that we do it together.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's probably one of the biggest things. When people ask me, and a lot of times in talks as well that I give, they ask, what is it like to be a woman in a male-dominated industry? And I do feel maybe perhaps, yes, it's a great question, but perhaps a little bit old now. It's wearing out, that question. But what you guys said just now is that having your peers out there and putting yourself out there, but also being comfortable to put yourself out there. And how do we teach the women to be that, to reach out to our peers who may be women or men?
And I would say too, I will tell you a couple of those critical points where I felt like I connected with my staff is I had to connect with my staff.
Yeah.
So that means I had to do things that were not what I normally knew how to do. I mean, skiing and things like the first time, and I'm just make a fool of myself. But it was just about connecting and finding a way to just open that conversation up to be a lot more flexible. So it's been fun. I've learned a lot.
Now, Ashley, back to you again. Why do you think it's important for women to enter the cybersecurity industry?
Yeah, there's a lot of important reasons, but I'll talk about 3 that I think are most important today. The first is that a diverse and inclusive work environment, it increases innovation, productivity, and profitability. Companies that have higher gender diversity have been more successful consecutively over the past 5 years than those with lower gender diversity. And this is something that's now quantifiable, right? There's tons of research and studies out there that tie numbers to this. Companies with more women at the top and in management positions can see anywhere from 15 to 50% increase in profits. So those are huge numbers that we can't ignore. The second is that we really need more role models, mentors, and peers to provide support for women who are currently in the space so that we can retain them, because we have a huge retention problem. Women leave the space, the tech space, at a 45% rate higher than men. So we need that in order to retain the women that we have, as well as to cultivate the next generation of women that are coming into the space to build that support system. And then the third reason, I think, is really a little bit of a numbers game. Patrick and I think Serge talked yesterday in their keynotes about the war that we have in talent, right? And as the need for cyber protection continues to grow and we create more jobs, the talent market just can't keep up with it. And women make up half of the world's workforce. So if we were to ignore that, we're losing out on a huge opportunity where women can really be a driving force.
So when I started the conversation, I talked about depth and breadth of talent and hiring talent. And of course, being in a very specific industry, of course, with the IT, with cybersecurity, is there a possibility, and I put this out to all of you really, to not just go on depth of talent, but reaching out to women from other industries? Is this going to be something, I mean, that should be done, should be brought forward, to be pushed a lot more?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think there's a new term, it's called the new collar of work. And looking for people to come from different industries and different types of skill sets. And it's not just, I'm on the talent acquisition side, so it's not just for me and the recruiters to look at this, but it's important for hiring managers and leaders within organizations to think about what types of transferable skills will make somebody successful, what types of skills can you train them in when they get there versus needing them to come in with it. And it's important that we do look from other industries, because this one's changing rapidly, right? So there's not always somebody who's going to come in with 5 years of previous experience in that role with that skill set. You need to be able to be a little bit more beyond that.
Okay.
And I'll add to that. The company that I formed is around innovation in business. So I always say I can teach you cyber, but I need you to understand strategic thinking and engineering. You have to understand those things. The cyber can apply, and especially with digital transformation being where it is now, right? We really have to kind of wrap that design security around that. So I actually look for non-IT specific people because I need to be able to connect closer to the business. So it's actually the reverse for us.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's a great point, because today technology touches every aspect of everyone's life. So there's no longer that stigma, right, of it's technology, it's not for me. How do you cultivate, how do you nurture that in women, in young girls, up and coming, and provide awareness on the benefits and the advantages and the power, right, through knowledge. Mm-hmm. So we need to make sure we have a concerted effort in providing that knowledge and that education so that they feel comfortable with these types of technologies that are so critical.
When every job is an IT job now,
Yeah,
right?
that's
Every
right.
job is a technology job. Every industry is the technology industry. A lot of women might be surprised to find out that they're actually a technologist. So, I mean, it's just time to adopt that mindset. We're all in the technology business, and more so today, we're all in the security business as well.
So really, the things I take away from that, really, like you said, awareness, lowering barriers of entry.
Yes.
And I think there's one point that Amy was saying just now. It'll come back to me, but like, but yeah, I mean, I think overall for the youth, how do we lower that barrier of entry? And it has to start even further back, really, from that hiring process. I mean, I think when it comes to school, when it comes to the education. Amy, now, what are some of the best practices for companies to be able to use when attracting more women into the cybersecurity field?
Well, you know, from a very practical standpoint, what we know about men and women is that we're very different, right? The men are from Mars, women are from Venus, sort of thing. We see that reflected all the way down in the way that they approach job interviews, in the way that they develop their resumes, in the way that they react to job ads. And so it is actually a skill that hiring managers need to develop in order to understand how the women are applying for these jobs, right? Is the job, are they being put off by the way that you've worded your job resume? Women tend to be more prone to the imposter syndrome. So the things that we know that in the workplace, you see that quite a bit, but we also even see it on the resume, where they may not put something on the resume that they don't feel 100% qualified to mention that item, whereas men will tend to, you know, put something out there that they feel competent in, maybe, or they've touched, but women will not put it on that resume unless they're absolutely 100% rock solid, they've got that item down. And so what we found is that it's actually a skill that has to be learned, and how to understand to read these things, so that you are not putting aside women that may on their resume not look as qualified as the men, because you're reading them from a different perspective. So that's probably my number one tip, is to actually know that hiring women is a skill, and that's a skill that can be learned. We've all inadvertently learned how to hire men in IT. And so when we see women coming in, they're not approaching the job market from the same perspective.
Mm-hmm. And I think to kind of add on that, I think the other balance is to make sure that women know that you don't have to be a man to be in IT, right? I think that's the balance. I mean, I think there's a misnomer that you have to do what a man does, or you have to do it the way a man does. I think it's the outcome. Yeah. And it's that diversity in thought that you want to make sure is at the table, to make sure you're doing the very best. And I think it's welcomed if it's presented that way too as well, right? So I think it's the counter of that.
No, I absolutely agree with that. I think that's one thing, even for me, that you're taught to, you have to have these certain qualities, you know, and characteristics to be in there. You have to be ball busting. You've got to do this. You've got to hit all these check boxes. If I'm like, well, that's not me. Surely there must be another way I can enter this industry or be part of this. Okay, well, I think I'm going to open this question to every one of you. So if you'd like to answer this individually, I think more importantly, what advice would you give to women who are just entering the cybersecurity industry right now?
I can take that.
Yep.
So one of the things that I've learned throughout my career, and I was just mentioning this to Ashley back there, is that failure is an option. You must fail, and everyone fails, right, at something. We're not perfect. But it's accepting that, owning it, being transparent about it, and then what builds the character and the integrity, it's how you manage that failure, and how you correct it and move forward. And I think that women, the technology space, everybody, it's so important, right? And there's so many technical caveats behind the work that we do. Trusting, learning, and knowing that things are going to happen, but it's a matter of how do you pick yourself up, how do you manage that and move forward so that you can continue to build on and the successes and the accomplishments that are in front of you.
Ashley?
Yeah, I think my piece of advice would be that the technology industry for women it's your oyster, right? So there's tons of opportunity for growth. It's constantly changing, but you need to be willing to take control of your career. So if there's something that you want, you need to be able to take control and ask for it, whether it's wanting to connect with somebody as a mentor, whether it's learning a new skill set, go in and ask, hey, can I take this training? Whatever it's going to be, whether it's taking that leap for that next promotion. I think Amy was talking about how women don't put things on their resumes. Women also, there's studies that show that women don't go for their next promotion unless they are 100% sure that they're qualified. Men will do it at 60%. So just take control of your career and speak up and ask for what you want would be my best advice.
Mm-hmm.
So I have two. I think the first would be ask questions. It's okay. Ask the questions about how to get something done. If you're in a role and you're not sure, ask questions. It's okay, right? I think that's first, and we tend to internalize a lot, and we'll sit with that instead of just getting support, asking for the support that you need. And then the other would be able to take feedback, right? Constructive feedback is hard sometimes, but I think it is also around that failure, being able to say, okay, let me make the adjustments so that you're not continuing to repeat something that's not working. So I think that would be, I mentor a lot of young girls, and I think that becomes the thing. Take the feedback. It is not, to harm you or damage you. It is to grow and adjust, and I think that would be the thing.
And yourself?
We see a lot of women enter the industry and then exit after some period of time. So that means that they're not satisfied with the job environment, right? They'll move around a little bit and then maybe they'll finally just give it up. And so one of the things that I would say to women and also to the men in the audience is to support continuing education. Right, that is a thing that if you're a technology person, there's a lot of job satisfaction in continually learning. But it's something that we all crave to do. And another one of the things that I would recommend to you is that you bring the women in your business to these conferences. I look out and I see the name tags, and everybody's a president and a managing director and a CEO, but nobody's that upcoming person that you're trying to support as a leader. So we need to bring women forward. We need to bring them to these conferences and get them active and involved in a wider breadth of the industry so that they feel welcome.
Mm-hmm. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've been able to take back some really valuable knowledge here. I think about changing the narrative really about the industry and being inclusive in that way. And I think there's lots of pieces that I've taken back and really have understood, and I've also been part of my career in that way about, failure really leading exponentially to your form of what success is and what the industry, terms of success is, really about creating that opportunity for the women, lowering the barriers of industry, growing that opportunity for women. Thank you very much, ladies, to Tery, Ty, Ashley, and Amy for this wonderful session, and sharing your knowledge and, of course, experience within the industry. And I think we give them a round of applause for being here today. Thank you so much.